Hello, I am Burt Green, this is the Burt Locker. On this week's show, I am going to be recapping UFC Vegas 72, also taking a look at what's been going on in Bare Knuckle FC because they had a big old event at the weekend, and we take a look at Francis Ngannou's latest, quite frankly, crazy demands when it comes to negotiating a fight deal with new organisations. All that and more on this week's The Burt Locker. Okay, so let's recap UFC Vegas 72. Don't forget, if you do like this content, please hit subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Trey Waters, he's huge for welterweight. He fought at welterweight against Quinlan. Now, Quinlan, he did take a last-minute opponent change. He was supposed to be fighting Lusa, who was a much more size comparable guy, because Trey Waters, man, he's so big for 170. They looked like they were two weight classes apart, honestly, and he fights to his height very well. So look, I would say that Trey Waters in the future, if you see him having a massive reach advantage, bet on Trey Waters because he used that reach very well. Marcus Rogerio de Lima, man, he was just a savage. Those leg kicks were absolutely fantastic. Look at the size of Acosta's leg in that fight. Go back and watch it, honestly. It's really, really nice. What can I say? Acosta's tough as hell to be able to fight through that. But surely we're going to see De Lima versus Boudet next in the heavyweight division. Fernando Padilla, great boxing. It's a new kid. Apparently he came from a boxing background. He's been boxing since he was at school, apparently. And you can see it because his combinations were crisp. Very, very nice. Fernando Padilla, keep your eye on that guy. Like, people are saying it was an early stoppage, but Erosa was done, in my opinion. It was like a flash KO, and that's the problem with those flash KOs. You're KO'd in a flash, the referee has to jump in. You might recover in a flash also, but that's just how it goes. He was getting pieced up though, let's be fair. Rodolfo Vieira looked absolutely fantastic. He rallied after getting knocked down. He was looking terrible at first because his stand-up is not great. They say that he's got like some sort of belt in Muay Thai. I don't know, man. His stand-up doesn't look great, but man, do not let that dude get a hold of your neck. Basically, avoid that, man. Getting a hold of your neck. Because, yeah, he looked good. Congratulations to him. The guillotine from Brundage was a mistake, though. He did make a mistake that led to to let Rodolfo Vieira back in there, really. Because, you might be able to get that from full guard. You're not getting it from half guard, and especially not on a guy as high level on the ground as Vieira. What was he thinking? Ciao Baralho, he looked really good. His double leg was really nice, but man, then, basically, going into this fight, the narrative was he was getting upset because some journalists were saying that he tends to struggle to finish fights. And I don't disagree with what they were saying, because if you look at his UFC tenure, he didn't have any finishes up to that point. So he was getting all butthurt about it, and then he comes up after the fight. He gets the finish, fair play to him. Fantastic finish, right? Good for you. Really good performance. But then he comes up and he's just like, oh, I don't finish fights. I don't finish fights. Oh, what now? It's just like, yeah, but up until this point, dude, they weren't disrespecting you. They were just calling it as they saw it. Continue to finish fights. That's perfect. You don't even have to finish fights. Just be dominant. But these journalists, they weren't having a dig at you. They were merely noting, oh no, he doesn't tend to finish his fights in the UFC, and that was a fair observation, wasn't it? Because up until that point, you didn't have any finishes in the UFC. Just saying. And then he comes out talking about how, their team are called the Fighting Nerds or something. Listen, it takes more than putting on a pair of fucking yellow tinted spectacles to be a nerd, all right? I don't buy it. I don't think you're a nerd for one solitary second. Because unless you're in your spare time painting Warhammer models and building PCs, I don't think you can claim nerd culture by being a super jacked fighter and just putting on a pair of glasses and saying, oh, look, bro, I'm a nerd. No, not buying it. Get a new gimmick. Anyway, Song Yadong also looked fantastic. He looked very powerful, very impressive. I think Simone, there was one round that Simone looked good. I thought Simone would be more dangerous with the wrestling and more his physicality. But you know what? Yadong he matched him, and his strikes are very powerful. He throws everything behind every strike. I do like Song Yadong. I look forward to seeing more of him in the future. So then we're going to move into the news. Before I do, if I could just ask, if you enjoy this content, just hit subscribe. It massively helps me out and costs you nothing. Don't think, hit subscribe. Mike Perry. Let's talk about Mike Perry for a moment, if we could. He has found a real home in Bare Knuckle FC. As soon as I saw Mike Perry make that move, I was like, that's a fantastic move for Mike Perry, because Mike Perry might be tailor-made for bare knuckle boxing. He might become the greatest bare knuckle boxer of all time, because he's got great hands, he's got great power, and he's got a fantastic chin. He is so hard to put away. His head is so hard, and he can just take punishment and just throw it back. And that is Bare Knuckle FC. He's tailor-made for it. Fantastic stuff. Like, I want to see him go all the way. Greatest of all time, Bare Knuckle FC. You should have seen, because he beat Luke Rockhold. Obviously, he already beat MVP in bare knuckle boxing. He's just beaten Luke Rockhold. But Luke Rockhold was never going to do well in that one. He was too kick heavy. Do you know what I mean? But you see his teeth. Luke Rockhold has teeth bashed in. No, goodbye modelling career, I guess. That was a terrible move for Luke Rockhold. He's already said that he's one and done in Bare Knuckle FC. Look, I respect it, because I wouldn't do it, but at the same time, it's just like, what did you think was going to happen? Fighting Mike Perry in bare knuckle boxing? Yeah, I'm not surprised you're missing a few teeth, buddy. And Alvarez versus Mendes was very fun. It was a very good event, to be fair. A lot of people rag on Bare Knuckle FC, but actually, that was a solid event. Very entertaining fights, very well presented. You had an off his head Conor McGregor in the crowd coming out, being given a belt for some reason. Fantastic stuff. You could tell he was off his noggin on drink or other things. You never know with Conor, but he certainly came out and he talked a lot of absolute weird nonsense, kind of semi-aggressive, not quite nonsense, like, I'm never retired, fighting here, I can't wait to fight, I love this organisation, they put on a great show, being really respectful of the organisation, and then saying, no, I haven't even fought yet, they've already given me a belt. Who gave him that belt for a start? What was the belt for? Like, he hasn't fought. So, I don't know. I don't know why they're presenting him with a belt. I get that they want to make the headlines, and it certainly worked, because it's been all over the headlines, but yeah. Would I want to see Conor McGregor in Bare Knuckle FC? Yeah, probably more than I want to see him back in MMA. I think he'd be more competitive, possibly. I don't know, he just relies on kicks quite a lot, but he keeps on coming out with this boxing stance these days, which hasn't been working out brilliantly in MMA. I don't know, I think the problem is, in MMA these days, Conor McGregor is just not realistically going to compete with the top guys. If he just wants to have marquee fights and make a lot of money, then obviously he can do that. And I'm not saying that he can't get back to those winning ways, but lately he hasn't been, and he hasn't looked brilliant either. So, look, I'd be all in favour of seeing him in Bare Knuckle FC. I would definitely like to see it. Him versus Perry, Bare Knuckle FC, I think Perry is too much for him. I think Perry's too much for anybody at that weight class in bare knuckle boxing, because he's just a savage. And what do you do to that dude? I'm so happy that Mike Perry has found such a good home in Bare Knuckle FC, making money, winning fights, beating up some really big name guys as well. Yeah, couldn't be happier for him. Congratulations, Mike Perry. You got a fan in me, mate. I absolutely love it. Then you've got the latest in the Francis Ngannou saga. Basically, he was negotiating with ONE FC, and they have closed the door on him for these reasons. Francis Ngannou, was asking for a seat on the board of directors. He was asking for him to determine his opponent's pay. Now, Chatri Sitchatong told the Daily Star during a recent interview, "We offered him 20 million, guaranteed. The money wasn't enough. He wanted all these other non-financial terms, and that didn't make a lot of sense." Francis Ngannou he needs to stop representing himself. From what I can tell, he represents himself. He doesn't have a manager. He needs a manager. Somebody get this man a manager before he manages himself out of every single organisation that will have him. Apparently PFL are interested now, but none of those guys, PFL, Bellator, they're not going to pay what the UFC was going to pay. And when he's coming out and he's demanding to be on the board of directors. Is he okay? Come on, man. Look, if you don't want to fight anymore, just say that. If you don't want to fight anymore, just say it. Just say, look, I don't fancy fighting anymore. No one's going to realistically think you're scared or anything like that. It's just you don't fancy fighting anymore. Maybe you've made enough money. Maybe you weren't as broke as you were making yourself out to be. Maybe all those things are true. But don't come out saying, oh, I want to be on the board of directors and that's my sticking point. Come on, man. How is that realistically ever going to... That's not a negotiable thing. It's like, no, Francis, we are not putting you on a board of directors. No, you don't get to choose your opponent's final what are you talking about, dude? Do you want to, go and reevaluate this negotiation and come back when maybe you've got a manager present, somebody who isn't going to talk complete nonsense? Come on, man. I'd like to see him fight again. I'd like to see him box, but he's not going to box a high-level guy. Not like your Deontay Wilders, your Anthony Joshua's, or your Tyson Furies. Those are all long gone. There's no interest in any of those. If he wants to start boxing, he needs to start mid-level guys. He'd get a decent enough payday. He'd get paid enough, and then he can work his way up from there. But I don't think his boxing skill is really up to that much. So yeah, this is starting to become problematic, isn't it? Never mind. Speaking of people turning down opportunities, Dustin Poirier turns down TUF because he said that it was only 80k and it's 6 weeks away from his family. Well, look, right, let's put it this way. The UFC, if you're on The Ultimate Fighter as a coach, the UFC pays for all your accommodation, all your food, all your travel, everything like that. And all you have to do is kind of coach these guys. You don't have to fight yourself. Yes, you have to give up some time. You have to spend some time away from your family, but it's only 6 weeks. 6 weeks is not that long, right? You've been at home for quite a while now, Dustin. Like, just saying. I mean, I don't know what your obligations are, but you haven't fought in a little while, so I don't know if you're away from your family, that's on you at this point. But saying that, oh, it's only $80,000 to be away from my family for 6 weeks, all these people moan about the fighters not being paid enough, right? Not being funny, but if you're turning down 6 weeks work for $80,000 with all your travel, accommodation and food paid for, then clearly you're doing okay for money, so clearly you can stop whining about not being paid enough. Because not being funny, who else is paying that? For basically for you to piss around on TV for 6 weeks? Come on, man. Stop saying these fighters are underpaid and then they're turning down 80k for 6 weeks work, where they don't really have to do very much. That's outrageous, right? It's one or the other. You're either paid enough or you ain't. Pick one. Jesus Christ. Troll of the week. This one's pretty good because it's all about Israel Adesanya. Look, I want to like Israel Adesanya because he is pretty funny, but at the same time, it's just trying to... It's this classic meme here where you've got the train smashing the school bus off the tracks. It's that me liking Israel Adesanya and then like the train smashing that off the tracks is all of his tweets and his one-liners. Because I'll tell you what, he lost me at that frozen like Elsa thing, because when it didn't land the first time and then he just repeated it, it's like, no, dude, it didn't play the first time. That doesn't mean repeat it. It was lame the first time. Everybody thought we'd just gloss over it. And then you repeated it again. Yeah, I left him frozen like Elsa. It's like, why? Just, oh, come on, man. I don't know. Look, he's a great fighter, and I'm a big fan of Adesanya, but it's kind of cringe when you hear those kind of things completely miss the mark. Like, it was weird. It's like, same thing was when Alvarez fought McGregor, and they needed to give him some trash talking lessons because McGregor was just like, it was so weird. Like, all he could think of to say to McGregor was to make fun of his Irish accent. And it's like, McGregor was, you know what McGregor's brilliant at trash talking. He just is. It kind of flows. But if you haven't got that gift of the gab, maybe just don't bother. I don't know, just let your fighting do it. But he should have sat there and just said, oh, yeah, no, like, you got all your money, that's fine. What are you going to throw wads of money at me? Your money's not going to save you when you're locked in there with me. Something along those lines, right? Pretty easy angle. Instead, it's just like, why don't you say the number 13 for me, Connor? Why don't you say the number 13? It's like, oh my God, that is so cringe. Is that all you've got? Dude, what, just making fun of somebody's accent? That's so weird and cringe. Just, if you're not going to come up with some half-decent trash talk, just don't do it. Just, ugh. Anyway. That's all I've got time for this week. Obviously, coming up, we've got Henry Cejudo taking on Aljamain Sterling for the bantamweight title. I'm going to be going through that entire card with a casuals guide, and I'm going to try and get some more in-depth analysis on the main event and also probably the co-main event as well. Those will probably head on over onto my Patreon, which is the Burt Locker on Patreon. You get like the exclusive, like kind of more in-depth videos, but the casuals guide will be up on my YouTube channel next week. Until next time, keep all those odds long and those bets terrible. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. Peace.